Despite what you may think, salmon is actually popular in some parts of India these days, particularly in Kerala, all imported of course. There are no traditional Indian salmon curries because it's too new. This recipe is essentially authentic, but with a couple of modifications for fine dining in Western restaurants, as explained in the annotations. Like most of my recipes here, it has the advantage of being able to be prepared ahead of time and finished on demand when guests arrive or when orders are placed. This begins by accumulating all of the spices that you're going to toast in a little dish. I'm using one red chili. I'm going to break off the stem, get rid of it. You know, if you've watched my videos or you've read my cookbook, you know the secret that I have about these chilies, how you dry them yourself. So this is now ready to go. We get a hot cast iron pan. For those of you who want to be really precise, I heated this up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit before I put the spices in. If you get it too hot, you're just going to, those mustard seeds will just pop like instantly, and you won't really toast them very well at all. If you don't have it hot enough, then what will happen is the cinnamon and the other things will start to slowly burn before the mustard seeds actually pop. So you want the pan pretty hot to begin with, fairly hot, 300, hot, but not to the point where it's just going to instantly pop everything. You want the heat to be in there. You want the way that Indians usually test this is they put water in the pan and they wait until a little bit after the water boils and evaporates. Then they know it's around 300. You can also use an infrared thermometer, which is what I used. You should probably use tongs for turning these around. Just because my fingers are asbestos doesn't mean yours are. So don't do this. Now you got to watch the pepper here. It's got a little bit of black on it, and you can hear the mustard seeds popping. That's it. It's done. I'm going to transfer this back to a bowl. I'll let this cool down a little bit before I grind it. Always a good idea. So there's all the spices that were toasted, as well as the teaspoon of salt, the dark brown sugar, and the citric acid. And this is what you end up with. Now if you taste this, it doesn't taste anything like a garam masala. It's quite hot and quite sour. But there's not going to be any tamarind in here, and this will go very well with the fish when you see it in the end. Now I've got about a generous tablespoon, quite generous tablespoon of crushed garlic here. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of the spice mix, and you can eyeball about a tablespoon of oil. You could also use ghee if you want, and stir this together as a paste. Now here's where you can add some red food coloring if you want. You don't need to, but I'm going to add a little bit. The aesthetics are important, and this is a nice easy touch. I have a piece of salmon here. Coat with this mixture. Use all of the mixture, because this is ultimately, it's going to go in the curry. So put it over. Just make sure that you get all of it in, and try to coat the salmon as evenly as possible. Quick recap of our mise en place at this point. The salmon is sitting here under some plastic getting extra red and marinating in those spices. We've got the onion, a green chili, which I'm going to cut up in a few minutes, some ginger that's chopped, but you're not grating it, you're not mincing it. Don't worry about it. It's going to be strained off later anyway, and you don't want it to burn. So reasonable sized pieces. The cumin, the spice mix that we blended earlier, and a bay leaf. And we'll measure out the tomato puree in a few minutes too. In a pan, it's getting hot on the stove, adding the oil, the onion. The heat is medium. It's a 5 out of 1 to 10. I might go up to 6. Okay, we'll go 6 out of 1 to 10 here. You don't want to rush this by any means. Masalas have to be cooked slowly. But the first little stage here where we're waiting to get the onions translucent, okay, we can rush this a little bit, it's okay. After the onions have been sauteed for about 3 minutes, I'm going to add those cumin seeds and green chili and the ginger scraps here. And we're going to continue cooking this. And it's been another 3 minutes exactly. Now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the spice mixture in, and we're going to cook this for just like 30 seconds. Could also add the bay leaf at this point too. And maybe not even 30 seconds, just 15-20 seconds. We're going to add the tomato pasada. The heat is on medium here. It's 5 out of 1 to 10. This is very important. You cannot rush this. As I've said in videos and in my book, #1 mistake Westerners make when they try to make a masala, they want to crank up the heat and make it go fast. You cannot do that. You have to be patient. So it's on a medium heat. Stir it around, and we'll let it thicken up. Here I have a couple minutes later. If the amount of bubbling you're seeing looks like this, you've still got the heat too high. So I had it on 5. I'm going to lower it down to just under 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, because we really don't want it boiling away here. We want it slow simmer and gradually thicken. If it's going fast, it won't taste good in the end. It'll have burnt overtones. This is what you want to see. This is the level of heat. There's some bubbling going on, but it's not going crazy. I actually have to turn the heat down even further to control it to this level. After 8 to 10 minutes, you've got this very thick. Now I'm going to turn the heat down even further. It's just under 3 out of 1 to 10. Now, get this lovely piece of salmon here. I'm going to place on top of this masala. The seasoning's on the bottom too, don't forget. Okay. Now we begin the time for this cooking, and we put a lid on it. Yeah, when this time has elapsed, through the magic of video editing, you open this up, you flip the salmon, use a wide spatula like this so you don't destroy it. Just scrape off some of the extra seasonings here. Okay, the lid goes back on for another couple of minutes. It's been another couple of minutes. Take this off. Now I'm going to use the same large spatula again to move the fish off to a plate. And I'm going to do this a little stir here. Now I'm going to add that coconut cream or regular cream or a mixture of the two, as explained in the text at the start. We'll let this begin cooking. In the meantime, off the side here, I'm going to scrape these little bits off of the salmon. You can put those into the fish too. Make sure you flip the fish over and get pieces from the other side too. Okay, I've returned the heat here to medium, 5 on 1 to 10. We don't really want to boil this. In fact, you have to be careful not to boil it, or it'll separate and you'll have a pool of oil in it. So, but you need to cook this just a little bit more, just a couple of minutes, and then we'll pass this through a sieve. After it's been thickened, and then we just pass it through a sieve. Rub as much through as you can, of course. Hopefully you didn't reduce it so much that it separated into an oil. That's the danger you have to be careful of. Now at this point you have the silky smooth sauce and you have the fish that's ready to go into the broiler. If you're in a restaurant, this fish will go in the refrigerator and you'll deal with it when customers come and you'll reheat the sauce. If you're at home and you just want to proceed, obviously just proceed. Stick this under the broiler. Here's what it looks like before it goes under the broiler. Give it a nice glossy finish. We brush on a little melted butter. If you like my videos, look for my cookbook, now available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other internet bookseller sites. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.